As you got involved, Nancy, in being a guide with et cetera, and learning about all that, you found out about the threats to the river and the Stanislaus River, and you became involved in Friends of the River itself, which had the Prop 17 campaign, and then later Wild and Scenic Rivers bills campaigns, and you eventually moved to Sacramento and got really engaged in it all. How did that involvement kind of all start up?
Well, I think at the core of it was we were in love with the Stanislaus. We were in love with the river and the lifestyle and the people, and so when it was threatened, it felt like, somebody was threatening our family, really. And so we were all really emotionally involved in trying to save it, because like you would try to save something that you loved. And we were all doing it together. And so it was very, involved.
So other river companies were doing all sorts of things, and ETC, of course, was doing a huge amount.
Yeah, ETC was not so, well, I don't think ETC was involved politically so much, just people were.
People were, yeah.
Yeah, I would say. But, yeah, we, and so when Prop 17 lost
in 1974, November 1974,
we were all devastated, and didn't really know what to do after that until in 76, when there was a new bill to try to save it that went through the legislature, which was called...
That was the Peter Bear's bill, the Wild and Scenic Rivers bill in California.
Yeah, we decided, I don't know who decided, we decided, FOR decided, we should send some people down to LA. And so Alexander Gagin and I went down to LA first. For some reason we're
going to come back to the details of that story in just a minute. But you also you moved into the FOR quote unquote offices, which were in a house that Mark Dubois had in Sacramento, and was working out of the office and with the organization on all of the things FOR was doing.
Yes. I don't know if I was living in the house before I went down to LA or not, I don't remember. But when we went down to LA, we worked out of the Ecology Center, and we didn't have a place to live, and so we just sort of snuck sleeping under the tables. And then we put our sleeping bags away when people would come to work. It turned out she knew we were doing that, but we didn't know she knew for a while.
This was an effort to try to get legislative support for the Wild and Scenic bill.
Yeah, and do what we could in LA, to move the campaign along, get support, yeah. And then gradually people came down, so we rented an apartment. And it was like a one-room apartment. It didn't even have like a bedroom. It had a hallway, so we slept in the hallway. And Cass and I were sleeping in the hallway, and a guy would come and sleep like in the closet on the high up on the shelf up in the closet, and then it'd be like 20 people sleeping in the main room. And
this was also kitchen. You could walk precincts and
we'd
talk
walk
to people
and run to San Bernardino and put up posters and flyers and signs over freeways, and it was like it was like trying to just whatever people could think of. We got involved, and some people knew Jackson Brown, because he'd come down the river with us, and so trying to get him to support our cause, and whatever kind of support we could get, different people would be doing stuff like that.
Grassroots lobbying for something you love.
Yeah, Yeah, and winging it, basically.
I mean, I think it's a really interesting point because there weren't really models for these grassroots campaigns at that point. This is just a few years after Earth Day, and nobody knows how to do these things. So you guys are having to invent this as you go.
Yeah, just do whatever anybody could think of. Brainstorm, what can we do, I remember Cass going to San Bernardino and there were, giving talks and trying to get into the school to, educate people about the river and, the Army Corps would, represent their side and why they should dam it. And so it was like very grassroots, but, and really empowering just to be working with a group of people, young people who are really
None of whom were being paid. Everybody was
paid.
a volunteer.
Everybody's a volunteer. No,
Yeah.
I don't know where we really got our food. I don't know. I don't know how we paid for anything.